Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new here, and welcome back to 31 days of December. We are almost done. This is absolutely terrifying and so exciting all at the same time. So today I thought I would bring you another serial profile, but this one I don't mean I'm excited in a way that I'm really excited about the content. I'm just excited that I didn't know about this serial killer and I've learned something new. So I hope that you learn something new. I had no idea that this person existed until now. But this case actually terrifies me so much. Without further ado, this is the serial profile of Amelia Elizabeth Dyer. Now, this woman, A, looks terrifying, but B, existed back in Victorian Britain. And I'm not just talking about, kind of existed around the same time. No, this woman was literally killing at the same time as Jack the Ripper. So, there was a lot of speculation about whether or not she actually was Jack the Ripper, and I'll get into why that supposedly links up, although there's no hard evidence later on in the video. So, a little bit of a background on Miss Dyer. She was a trained nurse living in England, and she, at the time that this all happened, was actually a widow. And she murdered for a period of 20 years. 20 years of murdering. But they have only been able to actually connect 3 specific deaths to her. Why this is such a big deal is because she is thought to have killed over 400 children. Yeah, 400. 400 children that she is thought to have killed, but only 3 have actually been confirmed. So, this is where it all gets a little weird. What happened? So a little bit of a background. She was the youngest of 5 children, and she grew up in a very small village east of Bristol. Her mother was actually very mentally ill. So she actually quite constantly witnessed her mother's fits of rage and aggression. She was basically forced to care for her mother until her mother passed away. They basically have thought now that because she was forced to take care of her mother, who was failing very mentally as well as physically, that it started to take a toll on herself. And this is why she started to have symptoms of her own mental illness, which also led to the murdering of hundreds of children. She was surrounded a lot by death. Her oldest sister died when she was quite young. Her other sister died after a few months of being alive. Her elder cousin had an illegitimate daughter, who was then later accepted as a daughter to her grandparents. And it was a whole mishmash of everything. She was actually partially a midwife. So this is kind of where she started getting used to children, I guess. She did get married. She had 2 children of her own. So what she thought was that she could start adopting children and helping them out. So this is a term that actually just makes my skin crawl. She was considered a baby farmer. Ugh, hate it. I hate that term. I really don't like it. So what that meant was she would adopt children that were illegitimate or unwanted for money and assure the parents that they would be loved and they would be taken care of, and that she was respectable and married, and she would provide them a safe and loving home for them to grow up in. Wrong. So in 1872, Amelia married William Dyer, and he was a laborer. They had their own 2 children, and then she left her husband. At some point in her career, because I will not use that term any longer in this video, she decided to forego the expense and inconvenience of letting children die through neglect and starvation. Soon after the receipt of each child, she murdered them, allowing her pocket most or all of the fees that she got. What this meant, it says, for some time she eluded the resulting interest of the police. She was eventually caught in 1879 after a doctor was suspicious about the number of child deaths that he had been called to certify in her care. Instead of being convicted of murder or manslaughter, she was sentenced to 6 months of hard labor for neglect. What? The experience allegedly almost destroyed her mentally, though others have expressed that the leniency of the sentence compared to those handed out for lesser crimes at the time. Upon release, she attempted to resume her nursing career. She had spells in mental hospitals due to her alleged mental instability and suicidal tendencies, and they always coincided with times when it was convenient for her to disappear. Being a former asylum nurse, she knew how to behave to ensure a relatively comfortable existence as an inmate in the asylum, and she began abusing alcohol and opium-based products early in her killing career. Her mental instability could have been related to her substance abuse, though. In 1890, she cared for an illegitimate baby of a governess, and when she returned to visit the child, the governess was immediately suspicious and stripped the baby to see if the birthmark was present on its hips. It wasn't, and prolonged suspicions by the authorities led to her having or feigning a breakdown. She drank 2 bottles of laudanum in a serious suicide attempt, but her long-term abuse had built up her resistance, and she survived. Obviously, somebody didn't want her going quite yet. Then she returned to murdering and buying children. Again, I'm not using that term. I just can't. She realized the folly of involving doctors to issue death certificates and just began disposing of the bodies herself. What the hell is wrong with this woman? The precarious nature and extent of her activities again prompted undesirable attention, and she was alert to the attentions of the police and the parents seeking to reclaim their children. No kidding. I would want my child back too if this was happening. She and her family frequently relocated to different towns and cities to escape suspicion and acquire new business. She also assumed a number of aliases. This woman is way too smart for her own good, and I really hate to say that because this whole thing is just really creepy. Now, in 1893, she was discharged from her final committal at the Somerset and Bath Lunatic Asylum near Wells, and unlike previous breakdowns, they had been the most disagreeable experience she had ever entered in another asylum. 2 years later, she moved to Caversham, Berkshire, accompanied by an unsuspecting associate, Jane Granny Smith, who she recruited from a brief spell in a workhouse. Her daughter and son-in-law were also with her. This followed a move to 45 Kensington Road in Reading, Berkshire, later that same year. Smith was then persuaded by Dyer to referred to as mother in front of innocent women handing over their children. This was in an effort to create and present that mother-daughter image to say, I have a happy family, everything's okay, please give me your child. What happened and why she finally got caught? Thankfully, in 1896, a popular 25-year-old barmaid gave birth to an illegitimate daughter named Doris in a boarding house. Then she quickly looked for adoption, placed an advertisement out in the miscellaneous section of the Bristol Times and Mirror newspaper, and all it said was, wanted, respectable woman to take young child. The intent was for this mother to go back to work, raise enough money, and save enough money to reclaim her child and continue living her life. She obviously wanted this baby, but at the time, she just couldn't justify taking care of it. Coincidentally, next to her own advertisement was another one saying, married couple with no family would adopt healthy child to nice country home. Terms, £10. Now, this woman responded to this ad for a Mrs. Harding, and a few days later, guess who responded to her? You got it. They then met, they wrote letters back and forth to each other, and eventually the daughter was handed over. Evelina handed over her daughter in a cardboard box with clothes and the £10. She was very distressed about having to give up her daughter, as you would be if you were planning on getting her back, and decided to just do it and leave. Now, what it says happens is that Evelina accompanied Dyer to Cheltenham Station and then on to Gloucester. She returned to her lodgings a broken woman. A few days later, she received a letter from Mrs. Harding saying all was well. Marmon wrote back and received no reply. Dyer did not travel to Reading as she had told Marmon. Instead, she went to 76 Mayo Road in London, where her 23-year-old daughter Polly was staying. There, she quickly found some white edging tape used in a dressmaking bag, wound it around the baby's neck, tied it in a knot, and watched it suffocate. Now, there is a quote that I have seen from her statements in her police reports where she says she actually enjoyed watching them die slowly. This woman needs help. And this is the exact quote. I used to like to watch them with the tape around their neck, but it was soon all over with them. Then what happened was allegedly her daughter helped her wrap the baby in a napkin and kept some of the clothes and sent everything else to the pawnbroker to get money. She paid the rent to the unwitting landlady, gave her a pair of child's boots as a present for her little girl, and the following Wednesday, another child named Harry Simmons was taken to Mayo Road. However, with no spare white edging tape available, the length around Doris's corpse was removed and used to strangle this 13-month-old baby. So not only does she have still the body of the first child, she got another one and used the same tape to kill it. On the 2nd of April, both bodies were stacked in a carpet bag along with bricks for added weight, and she headed to Reading and at a secluded spot threw them over the railings into the River Thames. This woman needs serious help. I will say it 100 times throughout this entire video, I know, but what the heck is going through her brain to think that this is okay? It was unbeknownst to her that on March 30th of 1896, so the same time that all of this was happening, that a package was received from the Thames at Reading by a bargeman. The package Dyer dumped was not weighted adequately and had been easily spotted. That was the containment of a baby girl, later identified as Helena Fry. So not only did she just dump these two together, there was another body found the day before she dumped them in the same freaking spot of another baby girl. They then did a whole bunch of discovery, found out that a Mrs. Thomas with an address had been the one taking care of this girl. Although it was enough to lead them to her, they still didn't have enough evidence to actually prove that it was her. And things just kind of compiled after that. It came down to the fact that once they finally found Doris's body, they were able to actually pin it on her. They found enough evidence that they could go and arrest her and say, like, you did this and you're going to jail. What happened? They actually figured it out pretty quick. This is really good for the cops of that time, and I'm sure because of the whole Jack the Ripper scare going on at the same time as all of this, they were hoping to just get this done and out fast to instill the public's faith in them while they're trying to catch this other serial killer at the time. She was arrested on April 4th, so 3 days after dumping the last two bodies, and tried for murder and hanged on June 10th of that same year. Now, at the time that she died, she only had a handful of the murders attributed to her, but like I said earlier, they have thought that she has killed over 400 children in 20 years. That is a lot of children. She became the Ogress of reading and inspired a popular ballad, which I will leave at the end of this video. And this actually led to the stricter adoption laws in the UK that developed over time after that, and allowing lots of thorough investigation being done into people who wanted to adopt, if they were allowed to adopt, etc. So all in all, why they think at the end of this that she might have been Jack the Ripper, although there is no hardcore evidence that she was, is that they believed she was potentially killing the prostitutes by doing abortions on them, but not knowing how to do them properly, therefore causing the entire thing to be botched. There is no concrete evidence that they can confirm nor deny this. And to me, I don't think that at the end of the day, that was really her game. It seemed like she wanted the children more so than she wanted the girls. So I don't see why she would be assisting by performing abortions when she seemed to want a live child to then kill on her own. I'm just going to leave it off all right there. This woman freaks me right out. Like I said, I still cannot use that term. I don't think I will ever be able to speak that out loud ever again. But that is it for me and my second, this is only number 2 of my serial profiles. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you learned something new because, like I said, I sure did. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and turn on the notification bell because there are still a few more videos to go before the end of December. And then we will be back in January and uploading every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I love you guys all so much, and I will see you in the next video.
The old baby farmer has been executed. It's quite time she was put out of the way. She was a bad woman, it is not disputed. Not a word in her favour can anyone say. The old baby farmer, the wretched Miss Dyer, at the Old Bailey her wages is paid. In times long ago when I made a big fire and roasted so nicely that wicked old jade. It seems rather hard to run down a woman, but this one was hardly a woman at all. To get a fine living on ways so inhuman, crossing in luxury on poor girls' downfalls, poor girls who fall from the straight path of virtue. What could they do with the child in their arms? The fault they committed they could not undo, so the baby was sent to the cruel baby farms. The old baby farmer, the wretched Miss Dyer, at the Old Bailey her wages is paid. In times long ago it had made a big fire and roasted so nicely that wicked old jade. To all these sad crimes there must be an ending. Secrets like these forever can't last. Say as you like, there is no defending the horrible tales we have heard in the past. What did she think as she stood on the gallows? Poor little victims in front of our eyes. Her heart, if she had one, it must have been callous. The rope round her neck, how quickly time flies. The old baby farmer, the wretched Miss Dyer, it's quite time she was put out of the way. In times long ago it had made a big fire and roasted so nicely that wicked old jade. Down through the trapdoor quickly disappearing, the old baby farmer to eternity home. The sound of her own death bell she was hearing. Maybe she was sent to the cruel baby farm. The old baby farmer, the wretched Miss Dyer, at the Old Bailey her wages is paid. In times long ago it had made a big fire and roasted so nicely that wicked old jade.